If you had 90 days to make $1 million, you started with nothing. You started with nothing, and you can't use your name, Kevin O'Leary. What would you focus on?
Wow. Well, that's a tough one, Grant. Like, that's a real tough one.
Does it make sense to invest in a portfolio to spread it out, even if you're not comfortable knowing the type of investments? Or do you just focus on those things you know and believe in?
Well, here's another lesson I learned from my mother that really worked for me over the years. She had a basic portfolio theory of diversification. She said, in her day, there were only 10 sectors in the S&P. Today, there's 11 sectors. That new one is all about you, Grant. It's called real estate. So there's 11 sectors in the S&P, including REITs and real estate. And so you never put more than 20% in any one sector, and you never put more than 5% in any one stock. That forces you to get diversified, and the market treats you better when you're diversified because you never know what's going to happen. Diversification gives you a lot of protection in volatile times or corrections or whatever, because you don't know what the next hot sector is going to be, but you're diversified. I'm a diversified guy. I never have more than 5%. And if a stock does become more than 5%, like my Tesla stock did, I simply sell it down to 5%. Keeps going up, keep selling it down.
So
I'm taking cash.
What would you say to me if I told you 98% of my wealth was in real estate?
No, I get it, and you're comfortable to do that. But you really, really got to work hard to manage a portfolio like that. You got to know what you're doing. Now, maybe you can teach people to do that, but that's a very, very, very complicated way of doing it if you want diversification. But if you're really good at real estate, nothing wrong. And the reason that happened to you, Grant, is you were really successful in real estate, and it just dwarfed everything else. You know that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I just don't have time to study this other stuff because I know how to pick a piece that's going to, give me a killer. It's going to give me.
No, listen, I'm 30% in real estate. I'm cool with real estate. I got no problem. But I like to do other stuff, as I said earlier. I like a little diversification.
What does a person do? What's the person?
From Deborah McIntyre.
Deborah wants to know, what does she do if she's just starting and she's in her 60s?
So if you're in your 60s, you're just starting, the easiest way to do it is, first of all, focus on paying off your debt. You really don't want debt. I'm including credit card debt, which sometimes you pay 17 to 21% on. You got to pay that down. When you're in your 60s, you got to get rid of that. So maybe you're not going out as much. Maybe you're not taking that trip. Maybe you're just being frugal until every debt's paid. And then you start putting it out there into an exchange-traded fund, which is what I like, diversification. Or if you decide to get into real estate, you buy your first building. And it's got to be an income property, though. It's got to be an income property when you're 60. It's got to be an income property.
No land, no speculation.
No speculation. You got to know you got, as I like to say, cash flow.
Cash flow, baby.
Flow.
Cash is king or cash flow is king? Which one?
Listen, cash flow is king.
Give me my sweatshirt. I got to send him a T-shirt, by the way. What percentage, this is from Manuel Rodriguez Tartak, what percentage of your earned income would you invest in personal development?
That's a great question, Grant. That really is. You should always be learning. You should always be doing things that keep your mind stimulated. And I don't care what age you are. You're always learning. So I think I'd put, maximum 3% into that. Like, it's an expense, right? You're not going to make any money on that other than make yourself a better person. But I always say you're not doing that till you've paid down your debt. Everything's about getting rid of the debt. Get rid of the debt.
Yeah, I would tell you, like, I would go into debt for my personal development.
Well, I can't get there. I hate debt. I think debt is evil. That's what I think.
Yeah.
You've been
spending too much time with Dave Ramsey. How much debt? Let me ask you. Google, Apple's got $300 billion in cash right now. What do they got? I know you got.
No, but I don't listen, Grant. Let me qualify that. I don't mind debt. I have debt on my real estate. I got mortgages on my commercial real estate. I got mortgages on my cold storage facilities. I get that. I'm talking about personal debt. Okay. Yeah. If I've got the cash flow to pay. Like, if I can get a great 3.5% or 3% or 280 basis point, on stabilized assets. If I've got a facility that's spinning off cash, like my cold storage units, of course I got debt on it. but it can afford it because it's got cash flow.
Yeah. But let me ask you, what's a better investment than Kevin O'Leary?
Nothing.
Exactly. And that's what I'm going to say to you.
What about this question?
That's what I'm going to say to the young man that asked, would he borrow money for his self-development? I'll be like, you're the best investment.
Well, I see your point there, but if you're lost, you don't know what you're doing, you should invest in yourself and find out a path. I mean, the thing, Grant, that I like about you is you push the idea of having a plan. You gotta have a plan. You may not achieve your ultimate goal, but you gotta go in that direction. If you're lost, you gotta have a plan. Like, you gotta think about your own self and your family and your own nut and how much you're spending. You got to have a plan.
Here's a great question from Rachel Blatt. Follow up to the last one. What about going all in on your own company rather than investing in ETFs or the market? The market wasn't giving me a return, so I went all in on my business. Do you think that's the right thing for them to do if they're
Well, the risk there is you're all in, and I get it. If you're in your 20s, I get it. I was all in on my company, 100%. But the minute I got diversified, the minute I sold my first company, I diversified like crazy, because you're betting. There's a time in life where you can take huge risk, but when you get a family and you got a bunch of stuff that costs you money and you're taking care of your kids, you got to get some diversification. You got to get some passive income. I mean, that whole thing about passive income, that's serious, man. That is really important.
So your first wealth was because of the company that you sold, right?
Yeah. No, listen, I had my wedding, we couldn't even afford pizza.
Yeah, were you diversified when you built that company?
100%. No, listen, no, I was not diversified. I had 99.999% of my wealth in my company.
So the advice you give is actually different than the success.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, if you're not going to run your own show, if you're not going to be an entrepreneur, you got to be diversified as you take money out of what your income is if you're an employee. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, and that's a third of the population, then you're riding with the herd. Then you're doing some stuff where you're really, really, taking some risk, and it's often rewarded. If you want, I think you said it earlier. You can't. No one's going to give you $5 million. It ain't going to happen. You got to go get it.
Exactly. So now I got about 500 people right now asking about crypto because I think they think you're the crypto king or something. Yeah. So what's the deal on the crypto? What's your opinion?
It's complicated as hell. It's volatile as hell. I have got 7% of my operating company's portfolio in crypto now, but most of it's in stable coin. Things where I can take USDC or DAI, and you got to learn this crypto stuff. It's not that easy. But I basically stake it, which means I lend it out and I make between 5.5% and 6%. So that's what I'm doing with crypto. I'm not doing the crazy stuff. I'm doing the stable coins. I got Bitcoin, I got Ethereum. It's 40% of what I got. And I got USDC. And I've got a bunch of guys at my desk that are now lending out crypto, I just wrote a contract today for 90 days. I got 6% on it.
What is the best way to raise capital for a self-sustaining energy project that's in the R&D stage?
There is a market for that now. Energy is controversial because the president has said he doesn't like what's going on with hydrocarbons. And so that's given a whole new life to sustainable energy, wind, solar, other ideas. I think right now the most interesting way for a total virtual startup is to go to equity crowdfunding. That sector has exploded in the last 2 years because people that are interested in the things you care about invest beside you. And you can raise up to $5 million on an equity. There's multiple equity crowdfunding sites. And lots of my companies use that to raise money now because you're telling the story of your company and you get people that are like-minded like you and they become your shareholders. You don't have to go into the traditional venture capital space anymore. You can do it online.
Mr. Wonderful, I'm 57 years old, downtown Jerry Brown, okay? I'm 57 years old. I have less than 10,000 in savings. I own my own business that grosses $1 million a year, 35% profits. What's a good basic plan to start growing wealth?
Wow, I like that story. That's pretty good. So, diversification. Your business is doing well. You're making money. It's profitable. Take some of that and put it into something else. Maybe some real estate, maybe some stocks, maybe some bonds, just so it's completely different than the risk of the business. Once you're profitable like that, of course, you pay your debt down first. and then you get some diversification. That's a good story. That's a pretty successful person right there.
Nick Bigelow, where do we even start with no money to start?
Oh, well, look, if you have a job, you got to start putting 10% aside. Like there's, if you're employed, you got to do that. I mean, my whole thing is, even if you're employed, you can be an investor. The whole thing is you got to save 10% of what you're making. I've been saying that forever. That's my mantra. When I sit like a yogi on the floor with my legs crossed, I say save 10%.
What are some things, Kevin, that people can do to increase the income in the job that they're in?
Get a promotion. I'll tell you how you do that. You go and see your boss and say, what people should understand when you're working for somebody, all they care about is how do you make their job easier, not your job. What can you do to make them more successful? They're happy to pay. They're happy to actually get out there and pay you more if you're doing your job to make their job easier. Always figure out what you can do to make your boss more successful, and he'll give you a piece or she'll give you a piece of what the upside is. That's how it works.
Yeah. That's why I always tell people, quit asking for a raise and ask for a piece.
Yeah, exactly.
I got an opportunity to invest in a big company like Facebook, Apple, and so on through an insurance company program. Do you see that as a clever move? And I don't have enough information to understand what they're saying, but would you rather invest in those companies that you own?
I'd rather invest in the companies that I own. Yeah. I mean, I don't want some insurance company in the middle of my investing. They're probably taking a fee.
Yeah. Francisco, do I focus first on paying my debt, or do I start to invest right away?
Debt. Unless it's attached to real estate, a hard asset. If you got debt on real estate, a mortgage, that's okay. But if you just have personal debt and you're paying 17 to 21%, you get rid of that first. You can't make 17 to 21% in the market. And that's why am I an investor in every credit card company? Because they make 17 to 21% of people that don't pay their Visa bill or their MasterCard bill or whatever they got. That's why I invest in those things. But you can't make that in the market. Market's going to give you 7, 8%. You got to pay your debt down.
Kevin, do you agree that it would be, the easiest way to invest in or to earn passive income is simply, like in the real estate game, is simply to invest with somebody that's already buying passive income?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, if you specialize in passive income through apartments, I get that. And that's a really good business if you know what you're doing. You got to know what you're doing. I mean, if you're going to get into real estate, you better understand what you're doing, because there's location is very important. The actual deal itself, the terms of the mortgage, all that stuff matters. If you don't know what you're doing, you got to go through it a different way. But real estate has been a great investment for a long time. But I really like residential now, much better than commercial. Well, it's what I've done is I've reduced my exposure to commercial real estate and retail real estate and increased my exposure to residential real estate. That's what I've done.
And how would you do that? Would you invest?
Well, I mean, you can do it through REITs. I actually own physical buildings, so it's sort of, the trend is people. I've got portfolio companies now, 34 private companies, and we thought last year, at the end of last year, that 15% of our employees weren't going to come back. Well, I was wrong about that. It's 55% aren't coming back into the office. More than half are not coming back. The accounting, compliance, logistics people. So we need less office space and more residential space. We need more residential office space where people are building out their garage to be an office, or figuring out that third bedroom into an office, or the second bedroom. The world's changing, Grant. I don't have to tell you that. You're in the real estate game.
Yeah, I own 10,000 units now. We have people that are in one unit asking for the unit next door to it to office out of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is what's going on in America in a really big way. So that shows you're better off in the residential game than you are in the commercial game.
If you had 90 days to make $1 million, what would you focus on? You started with nothing, and you can't use your name, Kevin O'Leary. You got to put a wig on and a mustache.
Wow. I probably would fly to Singapore and do something.
You don't
there
have any
with
money.
the
You
market.
don't have any money. You can't even.
No, that's a problem. But that's a tough one, Grant. Like, that's a real tough one. I'd probably go find. I've always been a salesman, so I would find a job where I can sell something, and because I can sell, and I would go do that, and I'd take that money and I'd find an investment I could put it into, because I was always top quartile in sales. I still sell. I'm still a sales guy. That's what I do. I like it. My father was Irish. He was a salesman. My mother was Lebanese. They're very, entrepreneurial. I'm a sales guy. So if I had nothing, I was naked on the street, I'd wrap some cardboard around my you-know-what, and I'd go get a sales job.
A little piece of cardboard. Okay, so now the audience wants to know who could sell the most, Grant Cardone or Kevin O'Leary?
Come on, there's only one guy's going to win that, Grant. That's Mr. Wonderful, 100%. If you like that video, wait till you see my next one. Don't forget to click right over here and subscribe.